Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel, my name is Lesego Rankou, and on this channel we learn, we grow, and we contribute. Before I get into today's sit down video, please don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to comment, because a part of this video giveaway, whatchamacall, requires you to comment at the end of the video, so you might want to stay until the very end. Please don't forget to subscribe. Remember to subscribe. Remember to also share the link to a fellow friend. To all of those people that actually joined the APC webinar, listen, I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you. Thank you for sending all your messages of encouragement after the webinar was done. This is a continuation, because let me tell you, Microsoft on Thursday, guys, my heart almost, like, I honestly went into a panic because Microsoft was taking in South Africa. If you are watching this from outside of South Africa is not that much of a ghetto, but for some odd reason it's hard to keep explaining that we're fine, because you turn around, there's no electricity, you turn around, there's no water, you turn around, there's no internet. Microsoft is down, guys. Our employers are going to fire us. South Africa, please get your things together, because we can't keep explaining things like this. But yeah, anyway, I couldn't actually post the recording of the APC webinar, so I thought I could do a quick recap for the people that weren't able to join. I also know that IAS is implementing its new board course, and it just so happened that they actually had a lecture on that day, so I do apologize for not checking that schedule. I was unaware that you guys had a lecture. So for those of you who registered that weren't able to come, I appreciate you guys. There were so many people, 170 something or 80 something people registered. 119 people were able to register, but I'm going to put the real stats somewhere here. I'm going to put them here in case I lied to you, but I really do appreciate the turnout. So we had 4 panelists, including myself, to speak about the APC journey. And basically the whole purpose of the webinar was to understand from you specifically what is going wrong with APC. Like, why are the stats going down? What are people not grasping? Is it work-life balance? Is it they don't understand the file? Is it they don't know how to be in groups? Is it on the day they have guababa and things go left? Munya mentioned in the webinar, some people, it will end in tears because they're just not prepared. I just think there is so many things that is going wrong with the APC that I didn't want to assume that I understood why people are not passing. So what did I do? I decided to host a webinar to hear from the source. And before they entered the webinar, on the registration link, I asked them 2 questions. The first question being, what do you think of your 2023 APC experience? And then secondly, what would you like us to talk about in the webinar? Because we wanted to actually tailor our content to the need, what is going on, and we wanted to address it from that point of view. So for everyone that submitted all their questions and submitted all their answers to those questions, I really do appreciate them. I'm also going to put them up here so that you can have a brief read as to what was going on. You would have seen that we grouped them into 10 themes, one of them being mixed emotions. A lot of people were feeling confused, they were struggling. There were also people that were having like this perception versus reality struggle, like the ones that were shocked when they actually didn't pass. Now this category was very difficult to speak to, because when we were discussing as panelists, like, how do you help this person? Because if they don't know where they went wrong, how do you give them a strategy to move forward? So the one thing that we recommended is, number 1, accept the result, because you cannot move if you cannot accept that it happened. It's unfortunate, but the reality is you were not successful. And so what can you do better? Because there is obviously something that happened that you might not identify with, that you actually now need to identify with. So point of entry is to first accept your results, and then secondly, get your script. I know SAICA released it on Thursday, or should be releasing it sometime soon. They are going to release the memo through a video, so if you get your script, you might want to ensure that you have all the memo videos on the SAICA website gone through, so that you can actually see where did I go wrong, and then the rest of this video, the rest of the things that were discussed in the webinar might relate to you. There were a lot of people that also didn't know how to tackle the exam on the day. Some people didn't feel prepared enough. Some people didn't know how to pivot when the information on the day changed. So we really did take all of that into consideration. And the second part of the question was, what would you like to hear from the webinar? People wanted exam technique. People want to know, how do you prepare? People want to know, how do I compile a file? How do I adapt to changing information on the day? So I'm so extremely grateful that our panelists touched on each and every point that was addressed to us. Now the idea is to hopefully host another webinar at the later part of the year, just not now, just so that we can give you enough time to consume what we've already said and what you've already learned. And also the board course is also going to take place, and we don't want to drown you with a lot of information. So I'm going to summarize what our first speaker said. His name is Onkgopotsoko. He is a chartered accountant, and he's working in his capacity as an assistant audit manager. And he basically spoke about APC is a test of stamina. You need the right amount of energy. So I do understand that with APC, there's a lot you have to consider in terms of work-life balance, right? There is so much going on when you're writing APC outside the actual exam in itself. You have your own personal life. You have work commitments. You have alternative family situations that kind of want to take the forefront or take the platform of your life, but you can't allow anything to hijack you, and you also need to start taking care of yourself. He also mentioned that a healthy body is a healthy mind. Now, I've never heard of anyone that exercises telling you how they're feeling so stressed and that they can't believe they're not getting through the work. It is highly unlikely that information or research is going to contradict the fact that if your body is not healthy, your mind is equally going to be unhealthy. So you need to make sure that you are exercising, that you're taking care of your body, so that you have the stamina and the mental capacity to consume, number one, all that research. Number two, also prepare on the day. Don't also overextend yourself. Now, APC is all about setting your boundaries, or you finally being put in a position where you have to set your boundaries. And setting your boundaries is one thing. You know what's difficult about boundaries? Maintaining boundaries. You can only maintain your boundaries if the people around you trust that you're going to do what you said you're going to do. Yes, we understand. You're writing APC. Everybody must fold. It's all about you. We understand. But at the end of the day, you do have an employment contract that is paying for your bills. So make sure that you are actually doing your 9 to 5. You are actually being present when you're supposed to be present at work. But unfortunately, you might not be able to work overtime. You might not be able to work on the weekends. You might not be able to work outside of your work schedule, and that is okay. But for the only way you can maintain those boundaries and for people to respect that is if you are actually meeting your minimum requirements. Another thing that Onkgopotsoko actually said, and I think this stuck with me, because he said APC is also a test of identity. A lot of people don't necessarily write this exam with the concept that they're going to not be successful, right? But you end up being so stressed that your fear of failure gets in the way, and you just kind of like, how did I fail? Like, how did this happen to me, right? You come with this notion that, yes, I didn't anticipate to fail, but now it becomes an identity questioning. You start thinking, am I who I say I am, And it is so important that you understand there's so many aspects to this APC board exam that it is not as easy as just assuming that, no, actually, you are not the person. You are an imposter in your body. You who have studied 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, God forbid 10 years, and here you are failing an APC exam. It becomes like an identity exam, and it's important that you don't allow your fear of failure to override what is really true about you. And the only way you can actually feel confident is to, number one, cover your basics. Onkgopotsoko mentioned that it is important that you at least know, I am so prepared. I've covered my basics. I've done my research. I've prepared my file. I've spoken to my group members. That is why I'm feeling confident enough to tackle it and to know that I'm going to do my best. You will not question your identity if you covered all your basics, because at least you can identify where you went wrong. But if you have the confidence to know I've covered what I should have covered, then if anything goes left, it is not an identity crisis. It is not a situation where you start buckling and saying, maybe I'm not supposed to be a chartered accountant. Maybe I need to choose something else, because that's what failure does. It puts doubt in your mind. It makes you stagnant. It makes you not want to try again. And that is not your story. That is not the story that we were preaching. So I really hope that you take these points and understand that your health is wealth, that you learn to adapt on the day, that you don't allow your identity to be triggered when you're writing APC, that you allow yourself the right amount of energy to carry yourself. Don't overextend yourself. And the last point, set your boundaries, but most importantly, maintain your boundaries. So I had to change my location because my camera was overheating where I was sitting. So let me continue. And then our second speaker, her name is Kanisile Kambule. She's also a chartered accountant. She is working as a group corporate compliance manager. Sounds very, very important. Let me tell you, even when she told me that's my job description, I'm like, sis, you are doing the most. But Kanye was talking about APC groups, and this is like how she introduced it. This is a make or break for any APC candidate, because two things can happen with your group members. Number one, you guys can all think alike and you guys just agree. Somebody says something, yes. Somebody says something, yes. Or something else could happen. You guys could be in a group where there's dominant people in the group that tell you, this is what we're doing, this is when we're meeting, this is how we're going to do things, and it overshadows you, and you don't think, because you trust everyone's loud opinion as opposed to yours, because you're so intimidated by not wanting to upset them or not trying to be wrong. So groups have like a high weight, because in as much as we are going to emphasize, or I'm going to emphasize, that you have to research everything, obviously your group members are your sounding board, right? So it's important that when you are establishing a group, that you understand that there is a very loud I in team, right? This is your exam. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in your group. SAICA is going to assess your individual competence, how you understand the information, how you are going to be putting it down on the email. That is an individual exercise. So it is not right for you to be in a group that is going to overshadow you or overpower you or make you feel like I can't have an opinion, or I can't have a say in my group, or I'm the one having too much of a say. If nobody is also challenging you or asking you questions, sis, sir, maybe you be your sounding board. Ask yourself, am I on the right path? Because we are not all perfect, right? There are so many different facets to the information that can be explored across the 6 disciplines. However, if you continuously think, no, my way is the right way, then unfortunately you are at risk of not seeing all the issues. So it's very important that you understand that although you are working in a team, competence is going to be assessed at an individual level. The second thing that she mentioned is that we all don't come from the same background, right? Some people in a group might come from an audit firm. Some people might come from in corporate, like when I say in corporate, like not doing it in audit or not doing their articles within audit. So there's different ways that we think. So it's important to understand that we also not all train the same. So a diverse way of thinking is welcomed, and it's not wrong. But a level of discernment is required for you to say, how much of this information is relevant to me? But I should acknowledge that I understand that we are not all trained the same, and somebody's input might benefit me too. The second thing is that you need to be productive in your groups, guys. Groups are not supposed to be a situation where you guys all begazella together and you guys have an amazing time where you talk and there's banter. Hey, there's a time for playing and there's a time for working, because with your groups, every meeting with your group members should be productive. It should have as a level of plan, a level of intentionality. Why are we here? What are we going to discuss? How are we going to discuss it? Where are we going to put down our thoughts, our strategies? Are we going to use a Google Drive? How are we going to extend information? Like, there should be purpose and productivity in why you meet your group members. And it shouldn't be a situation where, yes, there's going to be moments where you guys are venting, unwinding. Guys, how's work? Work is great. Work is annoying. I can't believe my boss said this. I can't believe my manager said this. But at the end of the day, you need to check that out of the window and understand that with every group meeting, it has to be productive. The last important thing that she said is don't rush your research. Because you are working in a group, you might feel inclined to want to meet the group commitments, right? So it can happen that throughout the board course, let's say, for example, you're writing your first assessment, you guys come up with a plan and you guys decide you're going to meet on a specific day at a specific hour. And it just so happens that when you are doing your research, you feel like you're not going to get to what you need to get to, and so you start rushing your research. You start trying to get articles just for the sake of presenting to your group members. Just understand that is not what SAICA is trying to test. The internet is something that's supposed to back your foundational principles. I'm going to mention it when I speak about the file, but with your group members, even if you present them with information, you must believe in that information. You must have gone through that information, because at the end of the day, you are the one, like we said, that is writing the APC exam at an individual level. So there's no point in rushing your research and then not understanding, what did I research? Why did I even research something? Because the reason why you are researching it was because it was triggered, right? It wasn't because you just wanted to have an article for just. If it didn't address the trigger or the conflict or your thought process of why you were researching, please, please, please do not rush your research. Our third speaker, her name is Nombulelo Bengu. She is a chartered accountant, and she is working in a capacity as a financial controller, and she was supposed to talk about the file. Now, the file for me is one of those things that I can spend hours and hours. She also didn't want to stop speaking. Like, nobody, give us the mic. We can't talk about the file the whole time, but the file is that important. I also have a video that I'm going to link up here where I talk about the detail of the file, but she mentioned that with the file, please do not be afraid to change your strategy. If you're going throughout your APC journey and you realize that at first I was putting information in my file because it just looked nice, because it was coming from a Big 4 audit firm, because somebody said this sounds like what the answer or the question is going to be like, do not be afraid to change your strategy. You do not have to put every item within your file that you see Big 4 related, right? You should not be so nervous to try the different ways of compiling a file, because it is to your benefit. The file is supposed to help you. In my other video, I call it like a cushion. It's an aid. It feels nice. It's like your comfort. But the answer is not in your file. The answer is going to come in your mind with what you researched, with the time that you spend thinking through a situation, thinking through an email. Don't just collect information and build content within your file. The information in your file must be specific to what you know to understand, right? The one thing that I loved about what she said is that you need to understand what type of learner are you. Now, for me, I am a very visual person when I study, and I need to write things. So my file was purely based on things that I had written, supported by some printed items and just summaries everywhere, because that's how I learned. That's the type of learner that I am. As opposed to Nombulelo, for example, she's an oral type of learner. So she could learn from the discussion that I was sharing with her. I would tell her, Mabengu, if verse 2 says this, and that's how she learned. She didn't need to write everything down. She didn't need to color everything. She had to discuss. And so her file was even smaller because it didn't need a lot of content. It was all in her mind. What was important is your thought behind why you researched a certain thing for it to land up in your file. And this is a top tip, and this is something that I wish I knew throughout the board course, is that every time you read your pre-release information, whether you are writing your first assessment, your second assessment, your sub, or even the final SAICA exam, please print a fresh pre-release every day. Have 5 pre-release informations typed out or printed out, because if you read it from a blank sheet, it comes across as if like you are seeing things differently. You are seeing things that you potentially missed, right? If you made notes or highlights on that piece of paper the day before, maybe the next day when you read it with a fresh set of eyes, you see something that sticks out. So it is a top tip, guys. Please comment if you've done this before. Comment if you've written APC before. If you are still on journey of writing APC for the first time, come back to this video in a few months and tell me when you write your first assessment if that strategy helped you. And then the last thing is that make sure that you cover all your basics, guys. At the end of the day, the research, what you do on the internet, is backing your 6 disciplines. You are studying to become a chartered accountant. You are writing the board exam to become a chartered accountant. What do chartered accountants do? Everything, right? But in terms of disciplines, we do financial reporting, we do audit, we do management accounting, we do tax, we do compliance with laws and regulations, we do ethics. Those are the foundational things that you have to research with every trigger. Don't just focus on one perspective. Even though it looks like they are about to sell a division and it's giving IFRS 5, maybe think about the tax implications of that transaction. Think about the ethics behind that transaction. Why are they selling? Are they selling it because somebody's KPI is going to change if they sell? Are they selling it because there are tax benefits or tax consequences to the sale? You need to understand all 6 disciplines when you are doing your research. So please do guided research, and that is going to determine how much content is going to be in your file over and above the type of learner that you are. And then finally, Munya took the stage. Now, Munya Rachaka, he's also a chartered accountant. He is currently working as a senior associate, and his whole session was hilarious, guys. I felt like I was writing APC for the first time, but he gave such a fresh perspective as to how you view writing the final SAICA APC exam. This is the setting. You are being introduced to the pre-release information as saying, congratulations, you are a newly qualified CASA. You are working as a financial manager at this firm, So understand that you literally just got employed when you are writing your APC exam to that specific company. So every time you make decisions or every time you are doing your research, do it in such a way that, number one, you understand the position that you're in, and then secondly, that you are working for this firm. So every email that's coming to you is coming from a colleague. So if the CEO is sending you an email, when you respond, remember, I'm responding to my colleague. How would I respond to a colleague? That shifts the traditional way of answering a question like ITC or CTA. It gives you perspective because you need to understand that on the other side of this email is the actual person. That is what SAICA is testing when they are checking your professional competence, because you are going to be a newly qualified chartered accountant in business and you are going to be employed as a financial manager. Will you be able to respond to these emails should you get a specific request, whether it touches all 6 foundational principles? That is a very important fact that, as he summarized it, even for me, I felt like it landed differently because that's what we do on a daily basis. As soon as you pass APC, as soon as you're done with articles, you're going to be thrown in the deep end because everybody wants you as a CASA. But will you be able to respond to these grueling emails? Make sure that you understand your strategy with your team before you even get to the pre-release information. He made a point to say, make arrangements with your team. Understand what is going to be your mode of communication. How are you guys going to exchange information? When are you guys going to meet? Those are things that you can't figure out on day 1 of the pre-release information. You need to have a plan before your plan. The second thing that he said is that you need to start adapting to the information, guys. It's important to know that, yes, you're going to have your 5 days of pre-release information that you've researched. But on the day, that CEO, that CFO is going to come back and say, hi, it's me again. Remember when I said this? And now, in conjunction to Nombulelo's file information, make sure that you have a summary of the email, because when they say, remember this, I'm thinking I don't want to do that anymore, I want to change. You don't have time to go read that whole email from the pre-release information. You need a summary to understand what did they ask and what are they changing that's different, right? Being able to adapt to information on the day is a part of professional competence. So that's what you should expect. You cannot at this stage be shocked that information on the day is going to throw you off. In fact, you don't have the question. Those emails that you received in pre-release, that was supposed to get your mind thinking. That was supposed to help you collaborate. That was supposed to give you different perspectives, have your mind thinking, because the competence is going to be assessed with the information on the day. And once you start answering an email, guys, it is important. You have to commit. You cannot leave an email unanswered, because this is the example that he gave. And I was so laughing at this because I was like, I've never actually thought about it. I want you to do an exercise. It's going to be literally 30 seconds. Think of a number. Add 2 to that number. Multiply it by 5. Now I want you to think of any color. Then think of an animal that has that same color. Then I want you to minus 5 from that first calculation that I sent you. You're probably thinking like, what the hell is going, like, what what was my first number? That's exactly what happens when you leave a question halfway and unanswered, because you have to come back and think about, where was I in my thinking process? There's no time for that anymore. With APC, even though it's 8 hours long, it is a very short amount of time when you are responding to intense emails that require thought, that require planning, that require competence, because you need to commit to every answer that you start. Commit. The last thing that he mentioned, which I thought was very, very useful, is that please do not show off. There is no need to show off in your answering. You are responding to a colleague, right? If you've given them enough information to address whatever they asked you, leave it at that. There is no need to try and flex and show SAICA markers that when I was doing my research, this is the information that I found, right? You want to force your theory because you don't want to let go of all that hard work. That hard work was important for you to perform on that day. So don't do more than what is asked. Answer what you are being asked. Do not answer what you thought was going to be asked or what you think is being asked. Answer what is being asked. And that is a quick summary of all my panelists. I really do appreciate every person that was able to join the webinar, and I hope this summary of their points is going to be a strategy that you implement in your APC journey. Now, I did mention that there is going to be a prize to be won, because we are also stressed about APC, or we've been stressed, whether we are repeat candidates or whether we're going to do it for the first time. My giveaway is going to be a spa voucher. I know you guys have been stressed. I know you guys need like time to think, and I always tell myself, a healthy body, whether I go to the gym, whether I go to the spa, whether I just relax and feel my body like in a calm state, I'm able to think better. So one of you would be lucky enough, or could be lucky enough, to win a spa voucher. How you can win the spa voucher? Comment down below and tell me what was your key takeaway from the webinar. If you have attended on the 14th of March, if you have gone through the entirety of this video, tell me what is your key takeaway from this summary, and how do you plan to implement what has been said in your strategy. And I'll announce the winner in the beginning of April, where I want you to have a fresh month, a fresh heart, and something to celebrate for the rest of the year. But I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this webinar, or the past webinar that took place. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and for those of you that attended the webinar, I really do hope that you found it edifying and that you were able to identify all your shortfalls, and that it will end in CASA. It will not end in tears. If it does end in tears, it is going to be good tears. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to comment with your key takeaway. Remember to like this video. Remember to subscribe. and I'll see you guys in my next video.